In antiquity, Egypt stood as one of the most formidable and influential empires, celebrated for its opulence and cultural achievements. The ancient Egyptians demonstrated prowess in architecture, engineering, and the arts, crafting some of the most remarkable monuments and artworks of their era, including grand pyramids, temples, and various other structures. They established public works that stood as symbols of their power and civilization. In ancient times, Egyptians cultivated a sophisticated culture and economy primarily rooted in the fertile Nile River Valley, which traversed the heart of their land. Proficient in handling the river's yearly floods, they employed advanced irrigation systems to distribute water to their fields. This expertise enabled them to generate surplus crops, which could then be traded for a variety of goods and services. At the core of this empire stood a charismatic and intelligent queen named Cleopatra. She ascended to the throne at the age of 18 following the demise of her father, Ptolemy XII, in 51 BC. Recognized for her support of the arts, her court became a hub for many distinguished artists, writers, and scholars of the era. Cleopatra herself was a scholar and poet, proficient in multiple languages, including Greek, Egyptian, and Latin. Assigned to jointly rule Egypt as co-regent, she shared the throne with her 10-year-old younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who also happened to be her husband, a practice commonly observed in Egyptian culture. However, their relationship was marked by tension and conflict right from the start. The advisors of her brother, mostly consisting of eunuchs, wielded considerable power and frequently manipulated the young emperor against his sister. Viewing Cleopatra as a threat to their authority, they initiated plots against her almost immediately. Nonetheless, Cleopatra emerged as a commanding figure with a strong desire to rule with firm authority. It could be attributed to her personal ambitions or simply the fact that her younger brother was too inexperienced to govern. She actively sought a significant role in governing the nation, leading to conflicts with the nobles who persistently influenced the young pharaoh against Cleopatra. Recognizing the tense circumstances, Cleopatra understood that the shared rule was unsustainable, and it would inevitably be a choice between her or her brother to lead. In a bid to strengthen her authority, Cleopatra initiated measures to marginalize her brother, gaining the support of the Egyptian people who viewed her as a capable leader and were becoming more dissatisfied with Ptolemy's advisors. However, the backing of the common people held little weight, as the influential nobles and politicians wielded greater influence. They compelled the pharaoh to remove Cleopatra, compelling her into exile in Alexandria, while Ptolemy asserted sole rulership over Egypt. Various theories exist regarding Ptolemy's decision not to eliminate Cleopatra but instead to exile her from Egypt. One hypothesis suggests that he might have hesitated to take such a drastic step against his own sister, especially considering it might have been perceived as a breach of traditional Egyptian values. Nonetheless, it was likely not his decision alone but rather the choice of the young pharaoh's chief advisor, Pothinus, an influential eunuch who had previously served his father as an advisor. However, what he did not anticipate was Cleopatra's resolve to challenge the pharaoh's authority. In 48 BC, Cleopatra returned to Egypt with an army, aiming to reclaim her rightful position on the throne. She and her forces landed at the port city of Pelusium, which was under the control of Ptolemy's forces, initiating a series of battles. Cleopatra's forces successfully seized the city and overcame Ptolemy's army. However, Ptolemy's forces regrouped and managed to reclaim control over the city of Alexandria. Despite these events, the conflict persisted, and both factions continued their efforts to secure power. Meanwhile, in the Roman Empire, the renowned Julius Caesar achieved victory over Pompey, a distinguished statesman of Rome, in the Battle of Pharsalus. Subsequently, Pompey sought refuge in Egypt, believing that the pharaoh owed him a considerable debt from earlier financial transactions with the Egyptian kingdom. He appealed to the pharaoh for assistance in his struggle against Julius Caesar. However, Ptolemy understood that Pompey had suffered defeat, and he had his own challenges to confront in the battle against Cleopatra. In his youthful state at the age of 14, Ptolemy had matured and strategically maneuvered in the political arena. Aware that Julius Caesar was en route to Egypt in pursuit of Pompey, Ptolemy recognized an opportunity to gain the favor of Caesar. He believed that by securing Caesar's support, he could enlist Caesar's assistance in quelling Cleopatra's rebellion. He executed the Roman statesman Pompey, and upon Julius Caesar's arrival in his court, he offered Pompey's head as a gift to Caesar. To the pharaoh's surprise, Caesar was furious at the sight of Pompey's head. Despite Pompey being his adversary, Caesar, respecting the Roman honor, did not appreciate the pharaoh's undignified act. Egypt and Rome were in a state of peace, and Caesar, displeased with the pharaoh's actions, declined to support Ptolemy against his sister. Instead, he sought an audience with Cleopatra before making a decision about going to war against her. The pharaoh placed Caesar under house arrest, insisting he would not be released unless he agreed to join the fight against Cleopatra. Upon learning that Julius Caesar, the esteemed Roman military general, was present in Egypt, Cleopatra allegedly disguised herself as a servant and covertly entered Caesar's quarters to secure his freedom. Leveraging her charisma and political acumen, Cleopatra skillfully garnered Caesar's support. She was exactly the kind of woman who would appeal to a man like Julius Caesar. Recognizing the significance of peace in Egypt, Caesar understood its importance as the region supplied Rome with essential commodities such as grain and other foods. The recent conflicts in Egypt had disrupted the supply chain, leading to food riots in Rome. Caesar aimed to address this issue to ensure stability and sustenance for his republic. Taking sides with Cleopatra, Caesar was captivated not only by her political acumen, which surpassed her brothers, but also by her charm and beauty. Their connection deepened into a romantic bond as they fell in love. The association between Cleopatra and Caesar was both political and personal. Leveraging Caesar's military prowess, they successfully laid siege to Alexandria, capturing the city after months of conflict. In the midst of the Alexandria siege, Ptolemy met his demise, possibly drowned in the Nile River. Cleopatra seized full control of Egypt, while Caesar returned to Rome to address the food riots that had triggered a significant uprising in the city. Despite Caesar's swift resolution of the food shortage due to the newfound peace in Egypt, his temporary dictatorship sanctioned by the Senate began to assume a more permanent nature, unsettling powerful senators who feared the rise of monarchy or dictatorship in Rome. Concerns escalated as Caesar's actions undermined the traditional authority of the Senate and other political institutions. In response to these fears, a group of senators orchestrated the assassination of Julius Caesar on March 15, 44 BC, leaving Cleopatra devastated both personally and politically. In the aftermath of Caesar's death, Cleopatra sought an alliance with Rome, recognizing its dominance in the Mediterranean. Fearing Roman invasion and with Caesar no longer a protective figure, she turned to Mark Antony, one of Caesar's closest allies and generals. In 41 BC, Mark Antony traveled to Egypt for negotiations, where Cleopatra, making a grand entrance sailing down the Nile, won his favor. Their alliance against Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, unfolded. However, Antony's reputation suffered as he divorced his Roman wife to marry Cleopatra, fueling suspicions of his subservience to the foreign queen. The conflict escalated in 31 BC when Octavian declared war. Cleopatra, a skilled politician but with limited military experience, watched as Antony's forces, weakened by sickness and desertion, faced defeat due to Octavian's superior tactics. The decisive Battle of Actium marked a crushing defeat for Cleopatra and Antony's alliance, compelling them to retreat to Alexandria. Octavian pursued them, and after a prolonged siege, Antony's army deserted him, while Cleopatra's people turned against her. In August of 30 BC, falsely informed of Cleopatra's suicide, Antony took his own life. Devastated by his death, Cleopatra, according to legend, arranged her own demise by the bite of a venomous snake in a basket of figs. Cleopatra's death not only signaled the end of the Roman Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire but also marked the conclusion of the Ptolemaic dynasty, which had governed Egypt since Alexander the Great's death in 323 BC. Cleopatra's life and legacy continue to inspire as she became an enduring symbol of female power and independence, depicted in various art forms, literature, and popular culture.